Let's talk about Rwanda. Why not? We haven't talked about it for about 5 minutes. Labour will use its first Opposition Day debate of 2024 to put forward a humble address, that's what it's called, seeking to force the government to publish the full costs of the troubled Rwanda deportation scheme before the bill returns to the Commons, probably next week. I mean, we all need to know how much it costs so far, don't we?
Well, yeah, I mean, the figure before Christmas was, what, £250 million so far, and we haven't sent anyone there except for two Home Secretaries who, as I said before, came back, which is, worse luck. But, I mean, this is a massive unforced error by the government. This policy is nonsense. It's always been nonsense. We're beginning to realise that Rishi Sunak knew it was nonsense and still didn't have the courage to knock it on the head. If Labour wants to drag him over the coals for it, that's fair enough.
Sam, do you think this might be a vote winner, the how much is Rwanda costing everybody question? Or do you think that people keep saying, they certainly say it to me sitting here in this studio, there is no other suggestion, there is no other alternative, there isn't another plan? You know, you can't throw Rwanda out because there's no other suggestion on the table at all.
Look, voters are pretty firmly divided on this issue. They either think it's pie in the sky and it's never going to happen, and they will be angry about the cost of it. So, fair enough. But there are many who actually think this has to happen, that this is a symbolic thing, that it will be a deterrent, and they want to see it happen. And I don't think, the fact it's cost slightly more than was originally advertised is necessarily going to persuade them otherwise. And I don't think Labour will necessarily persuade any of those, particularly red wall voters who are more enthusiastic about this by banging on about the cost of it. I don't think that is where people's concerns lie about it. You're either philosophically for this or against it, really, and that the money is kind of a secondary issue.
David Cameron's been facing MPs today for the first time since his surprise return to government in November last year as Foreign Secretary. His appearance has been dominated by questions on the ongoing Israel-Hamas war.
If you're asking me, but if you're asking, am I worried that Israel has taken action that might be in breach of international law because this particular premises has been bombed or whatever? Yes, of course I'm worried about that, and that's why I consult the Foreign Office lawyers when giving this advice on arms exports. So that's why I don't. So if you put it that way, I'm happy to say yes, of course. Every day I look at what's happened and ask questions about, is this in line with international humanitarian law? Could the Israelis have done better to avoid civilian casualties? Of course I do that.
What would you say to that, Hugo?
It's like old times. I mean, I thought it was fascinating watching David Cameron. I'd forgotten how he was. You've got that mixture of, he's not that in command of his brief. He's quite chillaxed. He just sort of drifts in. There's all kinds of details he doesn't really know. He was asked whether Britain considered Gaza to be occupied territory. Wasn't sure. He's the Foreign Secretary. He wasn't sure. Yes, we do, is the answer to that question. And yet he does nonetheless have a sort of point to make that he wanted to make, which is that he wants us to know that he is keeping a keen eye on Israel and what Israel is doing, and he is ready to make a fuss if he thinks that the war with Gaza is going too far. So he did have a point he wanted to make, but he drifts into it in this very relaxed, kind of sort of sixth form common room kind of way that's slightly disdainful of the whole process.